Hmm. Damn fine cup of coffee. So, this is a weird video. Not really anything like my normal videos. I don't really know how to make this video. I've filmed this video a few times. Every time I film it, it comes out really, really weird. I feel like I don't have much to say about it, but also at the same time, people keep telling me this is an interesting thing that I should make a video about. I posted about this on social media recently. The short version of this is that I have bought noted film and television director David Lynch's dinner plates in an auction last year. Again, I don't really know what to say about this. You know, it was a very odd decision, but I can confirm, yes, I have purchased dinner plates that formerly belonged to David Lynch as a part of the Julian's auction of the David Lynch collection, and I paid about 4,000 US dollars for them. I don't do much with them. I eat off of them. I have one of them located behind me right here. This is it. This is the David Lynch plate. It's a very large ceramic plate. It is from Pottery Barn. Flip that over. It's from Pottery Barn. They're not expensive plates. Why did I pay 4,000 US dollars for these plates? Here is the very official thingamabob saying that I got it from Julian's Auctions, and these are the actual plates. It says the estimate of their value is between $50 and $100. Of course, I paid a lot more than that. So what is the deal? Why did I buy David Lynch's dinner plates? Well, you know, basically, when the auction was announced, they were auctioning off a bunch of David Lynch's old stuff. You know, it was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff in here that I would be interested in purchasing, right? There was some very cool stuff in there. David Lynch had a lot of old cameras and recording equipment and coffee makers and all kinds of stuff like that. Noted coffee guy, YouTuber James Hoffman did a video about how he purchased one of the things in the auction at a similar price to what I ended up paying. And he got like an old coffee maker that was previously owned by David Lynch, and he made coffee with it. Pretty cool, right? Very on brand for him. A lot of the coolest stuff, however, was obviously stuff that just wasn't going to work out. So there was a lot of art that was very cool that went for, you know, 10, 15,000 plus. There was a very old script of Twin Peaks that I think is insane. Basically, the script has, you know, basically the original title for it, which is Northwest Passage, and then it had been crossed out, and Twin Peaks had been written in by hand, which is very, very cool. That one went for, you know, a very large amount of money. Obviously, I could not afford that. There was a fragment of the Berlin Wall that he had. That one was kind of memed on Twitter a little bit when it was, you know, discovered. However, obviously, I knew that I do not have the money to spend on something that extravagant. I do well for myself. I have $4,000 in spending money that I could spend, but I obviously do not have 70,000, 100,000 plus. You know, I didn't have a lot of money. And so what I was looking at was I was really going through the website, and I was kind of like, you know what, I really do want some of these things. I think some of these things would be really interesting, but I was kind of focusing on what are things that I think would be interesting to have, that I think would be a nice memory to have, that are also not too expensive, obviously. And there's a lot of like random bits and bobs that, you know, basically just, it's like, yeah, like I don't want like this air conditioner that he previously owned, right? That doesn't really mean anything to me. But at the same time, I did want to buy something. And so what I ended up picking on was there were a few items that I was interested in, some of which I got outbid on. The plates were kind of my fallback item. And the reason for the plates is very simple. I think they have the most aura, as the kids say these days, of any of the stuff that was available to me. It was kind of a funny bit, right? Like, oh, I'm just buying his cheap dinner plates. You know, yeah, great. You know, a very silly thing to purchase for a lot of money, right? And so the way that it works is that you put in bids. You can put in bids online. You can show up to the auction house in person, or you can, you know, basically call in and have someone place bids for you. I just put in my bid online, and obviously because I live in the UK and this auction is in California, there is an 8-hour time difference there. And that was a tough one because it meant that obviously I did want to be there for the actual auction. Obviously it's streamed online as it happens, but I also, live in a place where the actual auction ran until like 2, 3 in the morning or whatever. And so I sat up all night, watching the auction, waiting for the time for it to be called because it was one of the less valuable items. It was basically at the very, very end of the queue. And so I did have to stay up pretty late in order to, be awake for it. Luckily, it turned out that my final bid was not outbid and I got the plates. They're mine. So the way that it works with the pricing is that I ended up bidding about $1,500 US, which is not that bad of a price, really. But then they add on an auctioneer's fee, which is like 30%. And so the auctioneer's fee was like $450. So that brings us up to $1,950. So we're already up at like $2,000, right? And then after that, there is the shipping costs. So obviously these are porcelain plates. They are not super durable. They break pretty easily. They are pretty hefty plates, as you've seen. They're pretty big, but they are not indestructible, right? And so they were packed very specifically in like a really heavy-duty, hardcore shipping crate. They were very, very carefully wrapped with a crap ton of bubble wrap so that they wouldn't break. And they arrived, all perfect, no breakage, perfect, lovely. However, that obviously cost me about $1,000 extra. Then there was also essentially just UK import fees because, again, it's a very large object that is relatively expensive and it's basically treated as like artwork that I've purchased. And so that's like another $1,000. So now we're up to $4,000. So it's obviously more than I wanted to spend on these plates, but I think it was a worthwhile price to pay at the end of the day. And yeah, again, there's not necessarily any real genius reason that I've done this. I'm not planning to resell these. I don't think that they're going to appreciate in value. Again, basically what I've done with them is that I've got one up here on the shelf behind me as a nice little thing. And then I have the rest of them in a shelf downstairs in the kitchen. And we eat off of them occasionally, right? We get out the good plates, as it were, and we, have a little meal, and we get to appreciate the fact that these plates were once owned by David Lynch. That's really the long and the short of it. There's nothing special here. There's no genius brain move. It's just like, hey, this is something that I appreciate owning. And it feels in a little way like having a bit of a, something that I can have as like a tribute to David Lynch and his work. And I feel a bit of a special connection to him. There was someone jokingly making TikToks about how you should pour out a little coffee for the memory of David Lynch. And I'll gladly do that in his plates at some point, right? It's just something I can remember him by and his work. And I think that his work has been so impactful to me. I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan. I love a lot of his other films. And this was just something that's meaningful to me. That's really how it is at the end of the day. Again, a bit of a weird one because I usually talk about fitness. I usually talk about video games. I usually talk about other things. But again, I was like, I don't know if anybody wants to know this, right? It's like a weird thing. I don't know if anyone really wants to know this. And so I kind of struggled. I was like, I don't know if I should post about this. I didn't post about it for a very long time. I posted about it maybe a couple months ago on social media, and a bunch of people were like, oh, no, you have to tell us what the story is. You have to make a video about this. You have to tell us how it happened. There's not much of a story, I don't think, but I made this video because obviously people asked for it. And so I hope that this video is interesting to somebody. I hope that this video is a valuable lesson that sometimes you can just put stuff on your credit card and it can change your life a little bit in ways that you really, really appreciate for a very long time. Not that I'm obviously encouraging everybody to just put crap on their credit card all the time, but I think this was, really a very meaningful thing for me. And my wife always makes fun of me because I'm very much a person who does not spend frivolously. I save a lot. I invest a lot. I'm not really a person who spends a lot of money on unnecessary things because I just don't necessarily care that much. this is really the first large purchase that I've ever made for myself that is not basically either a business purchase or, just like something that needed to be done, right? And so this is really the first time in my adult life where I've sat down and gone like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and purchase something that is just because I want it. And so I think that, giving myself one of those in the X amount of years that I've been alive, however old I am, you'll never find out. I'm just kidding. I've probably told people a bunch in other videos. I just don't remember. But yeah, it's just a little thing for me. And that's really it. Like, there's no magic story here. There's no special, long narrative. That's all it is. So anyway, I don't know. Hope this video was interesting. As always, don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell, all that stuff that you do. I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.